Nigga acts about me, nigga acts about me, nigga acts about me, nigga acts.
I plan to stop the chemical, physical, and emotional mutilation of our youth. On day one, I will revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender-affirming care. Ridiculous. A process that includes giving kids puberty blockers, mutating their physical appearance, and ultimately performing surgery on minor children. Can you believe this? I will sign a new executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age. I will then ask Congress to permanently stop federal taxpayer dollars from being used to promote or pay for these procedures and pass a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. It'll go very quickly. I will declare that any hospital or healthcare provider that participates in the chemical or physical mutilation of minor youth will no longer meet federal health and safety standards for Medicaid and Medicare and will be terminated from the program immediately. Furthermore, I will support the creation of a private right of action for victims to sue doctors who have unforgivably performed these procedures on minor children. The Department of Justice will investigate Big Pharma and the big hospital networks to determine whether they have deliberately covered up horrific long-term side effects of sex transitions in order to get rich at the expense of vulnerable patients, in this case, very vulnerable. We will also investigate whether Big Pharma or others have illegally marketed hormones and puberty blockers which are in no way licensed or approved for this use. My Department of Education will inform states and school districts that if any teacher or school official suggests to a child that they could be trapped in the wrong body, they will be faced with severe consequences, including potential civil rights violations for sex discrimination and the elimination of federal funding. As part of our new credentialing body for teachers, we will promote positive education about the nuclear family, the roles of mothers and fathers, and celebrating rather than erasing the things that make men and women different and unique. I will ask Congress to pass a bill establishing that the only genders recognized by the United States government are male and female, and they are assigned at birth. The bill will also make clear that Title IX prohibits men from participating in women's sports, and we will protect the rights of parents from being forced to allow their minor child to assume a gender which is new and an identity without the parents' consent. The identity will not be new, and it will not be without parental consent. No serious country should be telling its children that they were born with the wrong gender, a concept that was never heard of in all of human history. Nobody's ever heard of this, what's happening today. It was all when the radical left invented it just a few years ago. Under my leadership, this madness will end. Thank you very much.
Oh man, that was a lot to unpack. And I wanted to start off with that video first because I wanted this video to be strictly my commentary and my thoughts on what our new president had to say. Let's get into it. Alright, so if you are familiar with my content and you have watched any of my videos, you would know that I am not 100% for the trans ideology. And the reason I am not 100% for it, and I'll kind of say it again in a different way or present it in a different way that I haven't presented it before right now. I believe that gender is kind of, it has a divinity to it. And I'm not the most religious person in the world. I don't subscribe to really any mainstream religion. In my beliefs, in my heart, I believe that the black woman is God. The first human was personified as a black woman. That was the first expression of the universe as human, and scientifically, you cannot debate the fact that men are a genetic mutation from women. Women have a use for every one of their body parts. Men have nipples that there are no use for. Y is nothing but an X with a broken leg, and we know that human female consists of 2 X chromosomes, and a human male consists of an X and a Y chromosome. Christianity will tell you that Eve came from Adam, that woman came from man, but that is not so. If woman came from man, then we would be still birthed like that to this day, but yet we have belly buttons and yet we are not. But that's a whole video for another day, something that I'm not going to get into right now. But back to gender. When I was planning to have a baby, and I came across something called the Ramsey theory. My wife, she had already had a son, and we wanted to have a girl, and I was looking up genders and things like that, and I came across something called the Ramsey theory. And the Ramsey theory is 98% correct, and I'm going to put on the slide right here to explain what that is if you're a reader. But I'm going to verbally explain it too.
To know the gender of their baby at early gestational age. So if you went to the doctor for your first ultrasound after pregnancy, then at earlier age at 6 to 8 weeks, by using the Ramsey theory, you can predict the gender of your baby. The Ramsey theory claims that you can predict a baby's sex as early as 6 weeks into pregnancy by using images from an ultrasound. According to the theory, the placement of your developing placenta can reveal your baby's sex. Dr. Sam Ramsey conducted an extensive and controlled study over 5,000 pregnant women. He discovered that using the location or the direction of chorionic villi that are the future placenta is an accurate marker in determining the sex of a baby. Scientifically, it relates to a natural polarization in which male embryos have a proven pattern of being magnetized toward the right side of the uterus, and females are drawn toward the left side. If your placenta is forming on the right side of your uterus, the baby is most likely a boy. And if your placenta is forming on the left side of your uterus, the baby is most likely a girl. So the Ramsey theory says that the location of placenta corresponds with the baby's sex. Right for a boy, left for a girl, 97% of the time.
Okay, so you just saw that slide, but if you didn't watch it, if you're just listening, the Ramsey theory, it basically talks about the polarization of male fetuses attached to the north and female fetuses, embryos, they attach to the south. I might have it backwards, but that's how I'm just talking. I didn't pull up the clip yet, but that does, like, it's the opposite. Like, male fetuses, they polarize one way in the uterus, and female fetuses polarize another way in the uterus. That's incredible, and that's something I can't negate. And when you hear this individual talk about how the medical community has mutilated children, and I've worked at a place where we've performed these surgical procedures, and they were the most complex surgical procedures I had to gather materials for. It was crazy, and most of the time they're robotic assisted surgeries. So even think about that. Even think about the spiritualness of that. Like, and it's not just a robot, and the robots that perform surgeries are called Da Vinci. That's interesting too. Let's get into the spiritual aspect of that. But yeah, the Da Vinci robot that the surgeons use, and they put their fingertips in them, and they have the ability to move in a certain way that the human wrist cannot. They can move in certain degrees that the human wrist cannot, but the surgeon does remotely operate them as well. It's just that they just have that advantage where they have just a little bit more or less or more precise range of motion. And those machines are about $1 million or surpass that a piece, especially the newer ones. I do believe to a certain degree it's not a good treatment for gender dysphoria. And that's the diagnosis, that's the medical diagnosis to perform treatment. No trans person that has gotten doctor approved hormones or that has gotten surgical treatment for their gender dysphoria, they had to be diagnosed with that. They had to be diagnosed with a mental condition. Whether it's a mental condition or not, whether they feel like it is or not, I don't want to debate that in this video. But medically, it is listed as so. And also, it's still listed in the DSM-5 as a mental disease. And, I'm sorry, mental illness. And I'm just saying that just to state where we are as a society, because I am fully aware that my sexuality also not too long ago was, I don't know what edition it was. If it wasn't in the 5, it was in the 4, it was in the 3. So I'm not just going to say that, okay, well, what you guys have is a mental illness, and that's not subjective to who's making the rules and who's writing those books and even publishing. I've been seeing a lot of couples in different groups I'm in talking about, yeah, I have a fiance and now I want to rush to get married. And I want to say to anybody, don't rush to get married just because of the politics. Still stay true to yourself. Yes, it matters, but it only matters if you give it power. You get what I'm saying? Like, it only matters if you give in, and don't give in. Like, we just playing our cards, we laying them right on the table, and it's crazy because it's a slow step. Like, social media was set up for us to say all our thoughts. So when different companies and different agencies want to know how we really think, all they gotta do is like the information, like we're giving it to them. This is lunacy. No matter what you believe, this is a very sensitive time for the country. So the only thing I would advise my community to do is to protect yourself as an individual. Do your research, do your reading, and do what you need to do to protect you and yours. And that can mean different things. That can mean setting up a will. If you have a job that travels, if you are worried about gay marriage being repealed on a federal level, and if you have a dangerous job, say you travel or something, and you know your wife or your same-sex spouse, your husband, if you're a male, if they're all you have and you become incapacitated and you can't make medical decisions for yourself, you want to make sure that your spouse is in a position to do so. And that is a good thing to have. Regardless, this is a wake-up call for people to basically get that ish together. Get your shit together. And that might be some pot kettle shit, because we all have some shit to improve on, but I'm gonna talk to y'all like how I talk to myself. And honestly, like low key, like for real, like we're acting like he wasn't the president already for 4 years. Like, what the fuck else is he gonna do that he hasn't done in his past 4 years of presidency? And if we care so much, we need to care about the electors. We need to care about maybe getting our states more electoral college votes and maybe lobbying against that. Make some noise, man. It's like we play the game, don't say shit about the rules, but then complain when it don't come out the way we want it to. And that goes for every faction. Let's be safe. Let's be conscious. I'm out. Peace.
Nigga X about me, nigga X about me, nigga X about me, nigga X.